Welcome back, everybody. It's Friday. You made it to the end of the week. Congratulations. And to close us out this week, there was an incident at a Pride Parade in Colorado. John has the details about it.
The Pikes Peak Pride Festival recently was held in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Participating in the parade and festival was a splinter group of the Satanic Temple, the Satanic Colorado. During the parade, the announcer read the submitted description of the group passing by, which was submitted in their application. I would assume that the city had vetted the statements submitted. Did they? The pearl clutching moment happened at the end of the announcement, about a 7-second announcement of Satanic Colorado. The ending salute on the submitted form was the common Hail Satan. Terror on the city council. Let the fear mongering begin. And with that, this is a story from the Friendly Atheist, Hemant Mehta, on June 25th, 2025. And Eli?
Awesome. Thanks, John. So you gave us a little bit of background in your intro. So I just to get a little bit more context for our audience about kind of leading up to this moment in the festival. How did this kind of play out?
Well, the Pride Festival is held every year in June, which is Pride Month, as everybody knows. Satanic Colorado is a secular, non-religious group that advocates for separation of church and state. They have been participating in the Pride Festival for many years in support of the LGBTQ plus community. The city council chose this time not to issue any kind of proclamation honoring Pride Month, despite doing so for the last 3 years. They justify that move by saying that they no longer wanted to engage in identity-based or political gestures. And so they've refused to, most city councils will give a acknowledgement to the days or the months assigned to a particular group of people. But hey, not this time, not this year. It's sort of like refusing to acknowledge a systemic injustice spanning centuries. It's like it can be argued that MLK Day is both identity-based and political. So, put that as a reference. But what else will fear keep from justice? Good question. Calling the Satanic Colorado Hail Satan announcement an incident is an exaggeration and a little hyperbole by the city council people. Extreme emotional reaction to a harmless two-word phrase. This is stirred up by the usual. They did this after the usual neo-Nazi people on TikTok had taken it up and showed the video of this happening and everybody laughing and cheering as a way of, trying to other people. And of course, the city cowered in the face of a little backlash from the internet. Cowards is the right appellation, by the way. I don't use it lightly, but yeah, they were pretty much yellow-bellied. So I like that Hemant calls out that the libs of TikTok, who started this, as stochastic terrorists, because they really are. They really are. What they are is they're using their platform to instigate more harm to groups of people or individuals. So, yeah, they're terrorists, and they should be labeled as such and called out as such. The city council should be singled out as collaborators and bigots. So if the cowardly caved into a small group of wannabe influencers, perhaps we need one of our influencers to call them out the way they are. And with that,
strong words for the city council. But no, you pointed something out that that they said they didn't want to participate in political gestures or identity-based or political gestures, which I'll talk more about later. But I wondered too, and I didn't think about it until now, but I wondered if they put out a statement regarding, Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, which also I've seen posts about it. So I believe is taking place in June. I don't know that for certain, but I think it's something that people are posting about in June, and I think there's maybe some attempt to do that instead, like to take attention away from Pride Month, which not thrilled with if that's the case, but I don't know that. So I'd be curious to know if the city council made any statements in that regard, as far as not engaging in identity politics. But Damien, like Jonathan, Hemant Mehta, the author, had a pretty strong opinion about the social media page that kind of kicked this all off. Did you disagree with them on that?
Well, look, I'm going to very politely counter Jonathan's point about libs of TikTok being stochastic terrorists. I do think that some terms that we use nowadays in the modern social media age can be overused or lose their original meaning. And so I think stochastic terrorists may be one of them. Now, I personally don't agree with everything libs of TikTok says, and I'm sure Jonathan's a bit like that. But however, I don't remember any specific incident where libs of TikTok has incited harm. Sure, incite ridicule of certain positions, but I think it becomes terrorism when there is calls to harm people. And I don't remember libs of TikTok ever actually calling for harm to be done to specific people. Whereas I could point out early this year when there was a wave of people defacing, keying, smashing in Teslas, and there was a whole social media movement about that. So I'm just finding it interesting that we call libs of TikTok stochastic terrorists, even though they haven't, to the best of my knowledge anyway, and I'm very happy to be corrected on this. Libs of TikTok haven't called for anyone to be harmed or any violence, whereas we've had a whole wave of people keying Teslas to the point that there are prank videos of people setting up cameras and sewage systems inside Teslas to catch people defacing Teslas, and like that somehow isn't or not really thought of as stochastic terrorism. I'm just a little bit.
Well, it is.
No, sorry.
It is.
Okay, cool. All right, so we agree on that. We agree on that.
When you cause harm or property damage to somebody, but harm can be defined in many, many different ways. I kind of use a broad use of it when you are specifically causing a city council to withhold support for something they've been supporting. You are damaging a subset of the population, and I call that harm.
Okay, but do we know that Lynette Crow Iverson, who is the president of this of the Colorado Springs City Council, do we know that she was specifically influenced by libs of TikTok? Because Hemant Mehta, whether you like the way he writes or not, he's right. He writes one after the other, and I'm just wondering if we're falling into the fallacy of after this, therefore because of this. So Hemant Mehta is writing, stochastic terrorism of libs of TikTok, and then 2 paragraphs down, he's got, if the implication was that the city council was no longer inclusive, President Lynette Crow Iverson hammered that point home by lashing out against parade organizers. I was wondering, there's nothing I've read that indicates that President Lynette Crow Iverson is on social media to see libs of TikTok to be influenced by them.
I think I'm seeing this the way Hemant is, which is a little bit different from, and of course, I'm not in his mind. I can't speak for him, but how I view it, and as far as stochastic terrorism, because I didn't know what that meant. I mentioned earlier before the recording, I thought it was just him being funny, because I think that the word terrorist, like I said earlier, I think it's not used enough in hyperbole to its comedic potential. And I do love some good hyperbole when it's appropriate. But so here is the idea of stochastic terrorism isn't necessarily that something that the person who is performing it says causes harm, or something that they do causes harm, but it is to, in the context of libs of TikTok, publish content, reinforce opinions, or generates not the word I was looking for, cultivate an environment in which harm towards a specific group becomes more likely. It doesn't, you can't predict when or where the harm will take place, and that is the stochastic nature, which is the random probability based nature of stochastic terrorism. But it is that because of what libs of TikTok publishes and what they do, that increases the likelihood that harm will take place. So when because at first there wasn't any reaction to this announcement, kind of like you mentioned. I think it was John one of you mentioned the video that at the end they were cheering, people were clapping. Like the video lasts 26 seconds, and 20 seconds of it is the announcements, and then for the last 4 of it, it's people cheering and clapping. Nobody's upset. But then libs of TikTok finds the video. They say whatever they say about it. I didn't watch their video. I'm not going to give them the traffic.
They basically said that the thing was demonic. Libs of TikTok literally used the word demonic in there. So I'm just bringing up the
of
thing
course,
now.
that doesn't cause harm to anybody who's in that parade, now does it?
Well, it's not that necessarily. It's that because libs of TikTok published it and they have a wide audience, it became, it was sensationalized, and that sensation is what put the pressure on the city council to then respond with a statement.
A satanic organization walked in the Pikes Peak Pride Parade as an announcer yells, "Hail Satan," and it's met with cheers. Demonic. That's literally what. And then there's a clip of the video.
Yeah. So and I think so. It does imply that everybody that is represented in the video is demonic, which I think some might probably call that defamation. But then what it does is it's that reaction from that page's audience that created the pressure on city council, and that's why they then responded, because they didn't respond to the event until it had all this sensation, all of this attention. So that's sort of my take on it. That's where I think the idea of stochastic terrorism and the city council being impacted by that. So is that making sense?
An event that has been going on with this group's participation for many, many years, and every year they have something similar as far as an announcement as the parade proceeds. And then this time it was they needed to help create the environment of otherment and the environment of saying these people are not normal, the environment of saying they're not part of our society. And that's the thing, is that when you are inflating and causing people to think of your group as those guys over there, those evil people over there, you're basically creating an environment where they have to survive with a lot of negative people around them. And since queer people have had that problem for the last 1,000 years, it's a big deal when somebody comes out and tries to create "you're not part of our society" message. Okay, it hurts, it's painful. Just and people who aren't queer don't understand that. They don't understand that. Yeah, you can just laugh it off. Well, yeah, but why? Why should we have to laugh it off? It hurts. Why do I have to take the heat for that when they're the ones doing it?
Absolutely.
I could get into a whole bunch of other stuff with it, but as a queer individual myself, I get really pissed off when people start throwing slurs at us just because of who we are, and with no real reason to. And that's where I stand on it. And these conservative culture wars people, they think it's fun to make their money by degrading people. That's fine. They have a right to do that. There is free speech. I don't think free speech encompasses that kind of terroristic activity. And I call it terrorism because it is. And, you know, however people want to twist that to make it look normal, it's not normal. And that, I'm sorry I'm getting so demonstrative, but I really, really just resent libs of TikTok for being what they are. They may hate me for what I am, but I really resent them for what they are, what they're causing to happen to me and other queer people, especially in this day and age when bigotry is okay. I was raised in the 60s and 70s where bigotry was not okay. And I've seen more bigotry in my life in the last 10 years, 15 years than I've seen in all the time before that.
Wow.
So I'm done. Rant over.
No, and I think with good reason. And it is ironic to look at the majority of the message. A whole 10 seconds of the message includes a portion where it describes how the group is dedicated to improving life for everybody, making it okay for everyone to be their authentic selves happily and comfortably and safely, and how they really just want like everyone to have a generally decent time. And then they take this video, and because of 2 words at the end, they're like, wow, this is demonic. Like it's demonic for you know, to want peace and just like happiness for people. And then the city council co-signs that and says, yeah, peace and happiness for everybody, regardless of who they want to be. That does not align with our values. And I can absolutely see how that might, you know, come across as someone who is experiencing what you were describing, John. Like I can't relate, but I can empathize that might, you know, seem like just a really shitty thing, just to put it bluntly. And that's one of the reasons I think this response from city council is so stupid. It's not only that, because let's say if you had the same announcement for a church group and at the end it said praise God, would there have been any response to that whatsoever? If it was like, oh, they would assume, no, that's just what Christians do. Christians just want goodness for everybody, and they say praise God at the end. There's no response from that. But just because it was different sounds at the end, this group, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to ramble. I'm going to let you guys, you know, finish it out with your thoughts here in a minute. But this group doesn't actually believe that Satan really exists, and it said that explicitly in its in the description. They're a non-theistic group. Satan is their guy. As a Christian, there's exactly 2 belief systems in the world that recognize or believe that Satan is a real guy. We're just making fun of him, and you'd think that not taking the bad guy seriously would resonate with like people who believe in an unshakable or have unshakable faith in an omnipotent God. And like, I don't know, they're just playing into the same joke every time they get upset about, you know, Hail Satan or Satanic Temple or whoever it is. And I almost want them to get it. But because I think Gen Z Christians would probably be pretty funny roasting Satan. So that doesn't. I feel like some of them would do a pretty good job. But we got a couple minutes here left. Did you guys have any thoughts you wanted to close with, Damien?
Look, I'm in no way trying to diminish Jonathan's personal experience. Just from my, I suppose, foreign perspective, I will make a couple of quick points. Firstly, is that Christian, I suppose, ultra-conservatives have been doing this sort of dumb stuff for a very long time. I particularly remember, I think it was the late 90s, where there was a Christian group that tried to have the word hello renamed to heaven o because hello had HELL in the name.
Oh my God.
So, it's like this is nothing new under the sun, for starters. And look, it's I do get where Jonathan's coming from with regards to Libs of TikTok, and I'm actually going through the quote tweets of the original post, and there's only a couple that actually mention Colorado, that actually tag the Colorado government Twitter account. So I'm not sure there's a massive pile-on that was caused by this, or if there is, it's done by the means. But also, I'm just looking at all of the hate that Elon Musk and Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth and all these high-profile conservative / right-wing figures get. And I, without trying to be accused of whataboutism, it's just interesting that, we are, I suppose, condemning Libs of TikTok for this, but then I could also point out, just from my foreign perspective, that there's also the same kind of thing on the other side. And so I think it's not so much that bigotry has increased. I think it's just this general lack of civil discourse that has increased. And I think the sooner that we learn to handle disagreements better rather than make it personal and all this kind of thing, and this is kind of in line with what the Satanic Temple want is, being mature humans that, I suppose how I'm trying to put it, we can live in peace with respect and dignity as our authentic selves. And that's kind of what I want for everyone. And yeah, that's kind of my final points.
Okay. Jonathan, what do you think?
I could get into a long discussion about that, and I can disagree with you on certain points. I never wanted my diatribe to make you feel like you were the target of that in any way.
No.
I understand you're from another country, and I understand that your perspective is valuable. So I actually I like the fact that you gave that perspective, because I would not have thought about it that way. And that's an important thing. That's why we're here. We're here to have different perspectives. May not seem like it all the time, but we do argue about these things. So, and the next time I'm in Australia, I'll look you up. We can have that discussion.
Next time I'm in Florida. Next time I pass by that way. No offense.
But no. I mean, there is something about, there is, I wouldn't call it whataboutism, but it's always about, look, shiny, it gets to be a distraction from the conversation you're trying to have, and that's where I would go with that, is that we want to get to the facts. We want to get to the discussion of why this is here at all. Why do people hate gay people? Why are they so? Why are they so putting us down all the time? Why can't we just have a parade without everybody clutching their pearls and screaming through bullhorns at us? But that's a whole nother thing.
Indeed.
And that's a whole nother show that we can have sometime.
It is. I do want to point out. So I do want to point out that I think there was a council that said that we don't want to sponsor anything that's personal or political or plays into identity. But then there was talking about military, I think parades for veterans and all this kind of stuff, and it's like, well, that is a identity based thing,
Exactly. Yeah, it's this flip-flopping back and forth. It's like, say anything to cover your ass, but don't worry if it even makes sense, or worry about it later or whatever. We'll make up something else later. They said, we chose not to engage in identity or based or political gestures, which is city council. I thought that was kind of the point.
That's their job. They're political. Yeah.
Here we go. I have to say I was shocked. It says City Council member Dave Donaldson, Veterans Day parade will get nothing this year. The Festival of Lights will get nothing. But that celebration got 60,000, and it was a 50% increase.
60,000 for what? And from
I think for the Peaks Pride Parade. Yeah. Oh God, that's a
tongue twister.
That is hard.
Peter Pepper picked a
I'm
peck of
not sure
pickled
how it
peppers.
even how
Yeah.
that person's comment even relates to it though. Like they got
Doesn't
$50,000
relate
to
to
say
anything.
"Hail Satan" one time.
Talk about a
dare the gays get
whataboutism.
money? How dare they?
Right.
I don't know.
That,
And
that is a
yeah.
whataboutism. Well, what about them getting all this money?
Yeah,
You know,
I think that's the whataboutism we really need to stop. It's like, that's
And
that's just
sponsor
distraction.
everything. Sponsor everything.
Yeah. Not to push it even further, but I guess I don't know if it is a whataboutism, but it is to say that if they're gonna choose to avoid identity-based gesture or political gestures, then they should avoid them and not, wait until it's like, oh well, this is against Christianity, and now we're gonna get involved because Christianity is very much an identity. I mean, if your beliefs are certainly a part of your identity, and Christianity is a belief, so believing in Satan is a feature of, like I said earlier, those two belief systems. Taking a stance on Satan is an identity-based gesture.
Don't you know that Christianity is persecuted in America? Oh my gosh. They're under so much persecution, man.
I mean, it's not like they're like, gay or something, they're persecuted more than that, right?
Yeah. And not only is it an identity-based gesture, but since they're the government and it's a religious identity, it's also an illegal gesture.
There goes the funding.
Yeah.
There goes the funding.
Well, what are you going to do?
Well,
anyway, don't forget to check below for more nonprofits. Share, like, and subscribe. Tell all your friends about us. And don't forget to hail Satan. Take care, everybody.
Hail Satan!